Representative Norris, would you like to move your bill?
I would, Chair Howard. I would like to move House File 814.
So moved. And I understand you have an author's amendment. Can you briefly explain your amendment?
Yes, thank you, Chair Howard. So this author's amendment just does some cleanup work on the final section of the bill. It was intended to be a revolving loan fund. Some of the language originally got drafted envisioning a grant program rather than loans. So this amendment just gets that into the shape that we intended.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the A3 amendment, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Representative Norris, please present your bill as amended. And we are a little short on time, so to you and to testifiers, if you could keep your remarks brief so we do save at least a little bit of time for members to ask questions before we move forward. Representative Norris.
Will do. Thanks, Chair Howard. Chair Howard, members, this bill, House File 814, is about completing the manufactured housing toolbox. It's a bipartisan bill, and want to thank the co-authors on the committee, Chair Howard, Lee Johnson, Representative Hussain, and Representative Dotseth. The diverse authorship group of this bill, both ideologically and geographically, shows just how important the manufactured housing issue is across Minnesota. As I mentioned earlier, in my district alone, which represents the cities of Blaine and Lexington, there are 6 manufactured housing communities with a total of over 1,900 homes, the most of any legislative district in the state. Since 2017, the legislature has taken a bipartisan approach to tackling this issue. This bill attempts to build on that work and kind of round out that manufactured housing toolbox for our state. At a high level, there are 3 goals for this legislation. The first is providing manufactured housing communities with reliable and sustainable resources to maintain their infrastructure, allowing them to preserve affordable home ownership across the state. The second is to create lending products that allow manufactured housing residents to access affordable loans that will sustain new manufactured housing as an affordable home ownership option well into the future. And the third is to create a manufactured housing acquisition fund. This revolving loan fund would allow Minnesota residents to compete in the marketplace, especially against out-of-state buyers. And this is really designed, earlier when we were hearing the other bill, I think everybody was in agreement that if we can get residents to buy the parks and take ownership of them, it's a great thing. The mechanism for that is something that is worth debating, but this is a tool that can help facilitate that process of allowing the residents to actually take an ownership interest in the parks. We're also not starting from scratch. Section 2 of this bill, the one focused on loan products, was in the Senate Housing Omnibus Bill last year. Section 4, the acquisition fund, was in both the House and Senate versions of the omnibus in 2022. And it builds on work that aims to advance, preserve, and create affordable home ownership. And so with that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to turn it over to my excellent testifiers.
Thank you, Representative Norris. Up first, we have Tori Clark, Executive Director with North Country, or NCF, excuse me. Yeah. Ms. Clark, welcome.
Well, was that me? Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Chair and Representative Norris, for the invitation to testify. My name is Victoria Clark West, Executive Director of North Country Cooperative Foundation, or NCF. I am pleased to be joined by one of our cooperative's board presidents, Ms. Bev Adrian, who you'll be hearing from in just a few moments. Our organization is a nonprofit 501c3 with the mission of transforming lives and communities through cooperative enterprise. That mission is often carried out through educating and providing what we call technical assistance to those living in manufactured home communities as they organize and run their own resident-owned cooperatives. NCF has helped establish 10 cooperatives across the state, our most recent of which, and who Ms. Bev Adrian represents as the board chair, is in Chair Howard's district. And due to the help of the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, we actually have one more rural-based community that is actively in the conversion process, so that's always exciting. 75% of the households that are served through this work in our client manufactured home communities make 60% of area median income, AMI or below. And I always like to note that a full third of the households that we serve are considered extremely low income, making 30% of AMI or below. 42% of the households served are also Black, Indigenous, and people of color. We would like to thank the authors and co-authors of this important legislation who sit on this committee. Representative Norris, Chair Howard, Lee Johnson, Representative Hussein, and Representative Dotseth. Since the establishment of the Manufactured Housing Working Group in 2017, NCF has a long track record of working across the aisle with bipartisan and geographically diverse legislators to solve the affordable homeownership crisis. This bill attempts to build on the previous work of this group and other legislators to complete the manufactured housing toolbox, or to get closer to completing the toolbox of manufactured housing preservation in the state. I will now walk you through briefly the bill section by section and explain how this bill helps solve the affordable homeownership crisis in our state. So the first section of the bill is a policy-only addition. It just updates the covenants of the Manufactured Home Community Redevelopment Program, which you'll hear me refer to as MHCR. Every program comes with its own acronym. I apologize. And it's a no-cost provision that allows Minnesota Housing to award loans in addition to grants with the MHCR program. This would bring the program in line with other existing programs at the agency and allow greater flexibility for the agency in utilizing these funds. In Section 3 of the bill, I'll explain a little bit more in detail about the MHCR program. Sure. The second section of the bill includes $25 million for the creation of innovative and affordable manufactured home lending products. While the legislature made a change in Minnesota state law in 2021 that allows for manufactured homes in resident-owned cooperatives to be titled as real property, the vast majority of manufactured homes and co-ops are still titled as personal property. This prevents the homeowners from securing affordable long-term financing on their homes. Additionally, this makes most manufactured housing residents ineligible for traditional down payment assistance programs and other first-time home buyer financing. There is a large coalition of what are considered community development financial institutions, or CDFIs, across the state. These are nonprofit, mission-oriented lenders who are designed to serve traditionally underserved communities that have expressed a willingness and an eagerness to offer more competitive home loan terms, down payment assistance, and rehab assistance programs, which is the primary use of this $25 million. The third section of the bill increases the amount available for the Manufactured Housing Infrastructure program, the MHCR program, to $15 million annually. I think the most compelling case for increasing the appropriation into this fund is just our experience with the latest round of the RFP for this program. So in 2021, the legislature allocated additional one-time funding to the MHCR program, resulting in the largest grant award cycle in the program's history. So in 2022, funding for over $9.5 million in infrastructure improvements in the communities statewide in both cooperatives and privately owned communities. $5.9 million of these funds were secured by the cooperatives that we represent. There was $25.6 million in requests for the RFP in 2022, which just shows you the deep and abiding and urgent need to continue to make appropriations. And I would underscore Representative Norris's word of reliable and sustainable mechanism. So having an ongoing reliable source of funding into this program is really critical for practitioners like us that support these cooperatives to know that there's an ongoing source of support to complete these really critical infrastructure projects. And the last part of the bill is $10 million to establish a manufactured home cooperative acquisition fund. This addresses one of the kind of a market-based way of addressing the problem and providing the kind of quick capital resource that an organization like ours can work with residents to tap into to access the types of funding that they need to complete an acquisition. This section authorizes a one-time state expenditure to establish this revolving loan fund at Minnesota Housing that residents would be able to access in order to purchase their community and become a cooperative. Now I'm going to go off script and just describe why this would be so impactful. Acquisitions are eligible through the MHCR program currently. The problem, it's great that they're eligible. We've only been able to use the grant program to do an acquisition one time, and it's because the stars aligned and we got the purchase agreement under contract the same day that the MHCR awards were due, or the grant applications were due. That never happens in commercial real estate, just to underscore that point. So having a ready source that can be applied to on a rolling basis that we can have residents tap into, and then once we work them through the process to secure the permanent financing or the acquisition financing to secure the purchase, that money can be revolved. But it's that access to timely capital that's really critical for these deals. So just to give you a sense of what the impact of that portion of the bill would have. So thank you for your time, and I will hand it over to Bev Adrian to discuss how this legislation would help manufactured home communities like hers.
Up next, we have Bev Adrian, Board President from Woodlawn Terrace Cooperative from Richfield, Minnesota. Welcome to the committee, Ms. Adrian.
Thank you. I'm Bev Adrian. I am the president of Woodlawn Terrace Cooperative, located in the heart of Richfield, Minnesota. And thank you, Chair. It's your district. 16 years ago, I was preparing myself for retirement. I was downsizing. It was a beautiful, double-wide, brand-new home in a park in Bloomington called Shady Lane. I bought the home from the park owner, and 2 weeks later, I was notified that the park was closing. The park owner knew that he was closing that park when he sold that home to me. It lit a fire in me, and I became a resident activist, helped organize the community. We formed a resident association. We attempted to purchase that park. We were unsuccessful, unfortunately. I had to move my home. The park owner was forced to pay for the movement of that home. It was over $10,000. These homes are not mobile, and they're not cheap to move. But the problem was, it was a double wide, and there was no easy place to move that home to in the vicinity. Moving right along, 16 years, I found a little home in Richfield, Woodlawn Terrace, and I approached the park owner, and I said, I know people. I've met some people that help the residents organize so that they can become owners of the property. I said, would you be willing to talk to the people that I know? And those people are NCF, Tori. And the park owner said, sure, I'll talk to them. So I called Tori and NCF, and the park owner worked through the purchase agreement, and fortunately, we were financed by Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. And we are the 10th co-op in the state, and we closed on December 30th at 12 o'clock noon. Our purchase agreement expired at midnight. It was amazing. Since then, we have been beneficiaries of a grant from the MHCR fund. We have $1 million grant to work on our infrastructure. We bought a property that had been neglected for many, many, many years. One of the things people don't realize in cities, the utilities in our parks are private utilities. Our well is private, our water system, our electricity is private. XL Energy didn't even know that we were there. So everything, all of the utilities on property are private and our responsibility to maintain. We were able to finance or fund, we were fortunate to be granted $1 million infrastructure fund from the state for the improvement of our water system, our sewer lines, our roads. We are going to be installing city water in the spring. As a result of that, the city of Richfield jumped on board and granted us also $350,000 in a partnership with the state grant. So this fund is very important. infrastructure is critical in all of the parks in the state. It's one of the last things that park owners want to pay for because it's very expensive. And we inherited, a mess. But we're moving forward. We're optimistic. We're troopers. And we're going to make this work. And your cooperation will be very much appreciated if you could add a little bit money to that pot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adrian. Members, we are coming up on our time. We do have the ability to go a little longer. And so up next, we have Mark Bruner. Welcome back.
Mr. Chair, thanks. Mark Bruner, Manufactured Modular Home Association of Minnesota. I'd like to thank Representative Norris for bringing the bill, and certainly members of our association and other privately owned communities have been very active in participating in the infrastructure grant program, in updating their infrastructure in their communities. And I do recognize some of the language in the bill from last session, particularly in the Senate, and would encourage the committee to, under the home loan sort of grant program on 2.7 and 2.8, to also include privately owned manufactured home communities. So when there are loans that are that flow to homeowners, that if you your home is in a privately owned manufactured home community, that you too could qualify for down payment assistance or whatever. And Fannie and Freddie, the two GSEs, are working on programs right now for home-only loan assistance in manufactured home communities. So if that launches, in the next year or two, it would be terrific if the privately owned communities were also included in the state program, so that everything would come together for all residents of manufactured home communities. And that concludes my remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, there is an A1 that Representative Johnson had submitted. Did you want to speak or to the A1?
Chair Howard, because of the prior amendment to the bill, it makes my amendment irrelevant, but I'd still like to speak on it a little bit. Representative Norris, you do have some things that should be required in this bill that I'm glad you have. That's in 2.15 to 2.17, requiring the commissioner to develop the forms, applications, and reporting requirements for use of the eligible organization. I would also suggest you look at the recommendations in the OLA report on grants, because those are the same things that we should be looking at for loans. There is a number of them, 10 different areas with about 30 different issues that in our grants to nonprofits have issues, and I want to make sure we don't have them in the loan issue as well. So please take a look at them and see if we can incorporate some of those things, that the commissioners should go through that and make sure that those are in the policies as well, because not only who gets the money, but we have to make sure that it's being used properly, proper oversight of the loans, and at the very end, when they're done, that we have proper close out of them, that the funds are used properly. And with that, I'll withdraw the amendment.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Are there questions the members have? If not, I'll go to Representative Norris for any closing comments.
Thank you, Chair Howard. I'll just reiterate that manufactured housing is our best source of naturally occurring affordable housing in this state. This bill is designed to give us more tools in our toolbox to help make sure we're preserving and expanding that housing, and I look forward to working in a bipartisan fashion with the committee to hopefully include this in our omnibus.
Thank you for bringing this bill. And with that, I'll renew my motion that House File 814 as amended be laid over for possible inclusion into an omnibus bill. And with that, the bill is laid over.